Donald Trump is deleting the transcripts of his Oval Office disastrous press conferences and speeches from the official White House website, which in my opinion is also a violation of the law. To destroy presidential records is a violation of the Presidential Records Act. But every single day with Donald Trump, he is criming more and more. Here are the headlines from Drudge: Dementia Watch. Curious case of Trump's disappearing transcripts. He sounds far worse than Biden ever did. So when you go to the White House remarks section, this would typically be where they would release a full printout of the word for word transcript of what Donald Trump or what a former president would say. And this was the practice under a former presidential administrations. You would be able to read it. You could also see it. But what started happening over the past few days, and it really started in earnest over the past few weeks, you would see the remarks starting to be deleted and just replaced by video and no actual printouts of the transcripts. We have the transcripts at the Midas Touch Network. We save the transcripts. We keep a library of the Trump transcripts, which I want to share for you in just a little bit. Here's how CNN's reporting it. The curious case of Trump's disappearing media transcripts. The Trump White House, which touts itself as the most transparent administration in history, has removed a database of official transcripts documenting Donald Trump's announcements and appearances. The remarks section of the White House website now features YouTube videos rather than the transcripts that past administrations have published for decades. The change is yet another example of the Trump administration trying to exert more control. Rather than printing every transcript, thus creating a comprehensive record for the public, the White House is selectively publicizing some events and skipping others. The selection of remark videos is noticeably incomplete, as it includes fewer than 50 Trump videos from the first 100 days of his second term. The White House publishes a much greater number of videos on YouTube, including highly partisan attacks and propagandist mashups. Huffington Post senior White House correspondent who observed that the administration was cutting back on the transcripts earlier this spring wrote last week that the White House was excluding many of his most unhinged comments from its website. In response, White House Communications Director Steve Chung told the reporter to stop beclowning yourself. Now the transcripts have been removed altogether, with one exception: Trump's inaugural address. Stenographers employed by the government still record and transcribe all of the remarks, including his interactions with the media. Those records just aren't being posted, and we'll see if they're actually being destroyed or deleted. But once they're posted, they should not be removed. All right, well, let me read for you the transcriptions, because we have them. Every time Donald Trump gives remarks, we keep them here at the Midas Touch Network. So Trump and your fascist regime, you can try to delete it, but you ain't fooling us here at the Midas Touch Network. So here's Donald Trump's full answer in response to a question on May 5th. Mr. Trump, Mr. President, how did you decide to reopen Alcatraz? Trump's full answer transcribed. Well, I guess I was supposed to be a movie maker. We're starting with the movie making, and we'll end. I mean it. It represents something very strong, very powerful in terms of law and order. Our country needs law and order. Alcatraz is, I would say, the ultimate, right? Alcatraz, Sing Sing in Alcatraz, the movies, but it's right now a museum, believe it or not. A lot of people go there. It housed the most violent criminals in the world, and nobody ever escaped. One person almost got there, but they, as you know the story, they found his clothing rather badly ripped, and it was a lot of shark bites, a lot of problems. Nobody's ever escaped from Alcatraz, and just represented something strong having to do with law and order. We need law and order in this country, and so we're going to look at it. Some of the people up here are going to be working very hard on that, and we had a little conversation. I think it's going to be very interesting. We'll see if we can bring it back in large form, add a lot. But I think it represents something. Right now, it's a big hunk that's sitting there rusting and rotting. You look at it, it's sort of, you saw that picture that was put out. It's sort of amazing, but it sort of represents something that's both horrible and beautiful and strong and miserable, weak. It's got a lot of qualities that are interesting, and I think they make a point. Okay. That was his statement right there. Or how about when Donald Trump was asked about former President Biden? Here was Donald Trump's remark. I think it's very sad, actually. I'm surprised that it wasn't, the public wasn't notified a long time ago, because to get to stage 9, that's a long time. I just had my physical. You saw that. You saw the results of that particular test. I think that test is standard to pretty much anybody getting a physical, a good physical. We had the doctors at the White House and over at Walter Reed, which is a fantastic hospital, do it. I did a very complete physical, including a cognitive test. I'm proud to announce I aced it. I got them all right. You proud of me? Your husband would be proud of me getting them all right. It's a little risk. If I didn't get them all right, these people would be after me. It would be not a good situation. But I think, frankly, anybody running for president should take a cognitive test. They say it's unconstitutional, but I would say in that particular case, having a cognitive test wouldn't be so bad. But when you take tests medical as a male, that test is very standard. I don't know if it's given to everybody, but it's given just about. And it takes a long time to get to that situation, to get to stage 9. I think that if you take a look, it's the same doctor that said Joe was cognitively fine. There was nothing wrong with him. If it's the same doctor, he said there was nothing wrong there. That's been proven to be a sad situation. And the auto pen is becoming a very big deal. The auto pen is becoming a big deal because it seems that maybe it was the president whoever operated the auto pen. But when they say that was not good, you have to look and you have to say that the test was not so good either. In other words, there are things going on that the public wasn't informed, and I think somebody is going to have to speak to his doctor if it's the same or even if it's two separate doctors. Why wasn't the cognitive ability? Why wasn't that discussed? And I think the doctor said he's just fine, and it turns out that's not so. It's very dangerous. This is dangerous for our country. Look at the mess we're in. You talk about all these questions on Ukraine and Russia. That would have never happened as an example. If I were president, it would never have happened. The other thing you have to say, why did it take so long? I mean, this takes long time. It can take years to get to this level of danger. It's a very, very, very sad situation. I feel very badly about it, and I think people should try to find out what happened, because I'll tell you, I don't know if I had anything to do with the hospital. Walter Reed is really, really good. They're some of the best doctors I've seen. I don't even know if they were involved, but a doctor was involved in each case. Maybe it was the same doctor and somebody not telling the facts. That's a big problem. Or how about the speech that Donald Trump repeatedly gives on the campaign trail and that he repeats over and over again in general? This is a speech from Donald Trump. So I said, let me ask you a question. And he said, nobody ever asked this question, and it must be because of MIT. My relationship to MIT, very smart. He goes, I say, what would happen if the boat sank from its weight? And you're in the boat and you have this tremendously powerful battery. And the battery's now underwater, and there's a shark that's approximately 10 yards over there. By the way, a lot of shark attacks lately. Did you notice that? A lot of shark. I watched some guys justifying it today. Well, they weren't really that angry. They bit off the young lady's leg because of the fact they were not hungry, but they misunderstood who she was. These people are cray, he said. There's no problem with sharks. They just didn't really understand. A young woman swimming now really got decimated, and other people too. A lot of shark attacks. So I said, there's a shark 10 yards away from boat, 10 yards or here. Do I get electrocuted? If The boat is sinking. Water goes over the battery. The boat is sinking. Do I stay on top of the boat and get electrocuted? Or do I jump over by the shark and not get electrocuted? Because I will tell you, he didn't know the answer. He said, nobody's ever asked me that question. I said, I think it's a good question. I think there's a lot of electric current coming through the water. But you know what I do? If there was a shark or you get electrocuted, I'll take electrocution every single time. I'm not getting near that char. So this is why Donald Trump is not posting the transcripts. And by the way, if you were to look at the Time magazine transcripts of an interview with former President Biden, where he diligently, meticulously would set forth kind of the geopolitical framework for strengthening NATO, supporting Ukraine, ensuring that there were checks on Russia, sanctions on Russia, the way former President Biden would know how to kind of diligently message America's support for Taiwan, but also use language that was diplomatic enough to maintain cordial relations with China, so that America's trade could continue, yet we could show support for Taiwan. The way former President Biden had a command of things like strengthening the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership in Asia, as a way that the United States was able to actually do real deals with Asian nations in order to ensure American trade dominance throughout the world. And then you would, look at what Donald Trump would say during the Time magazine interview when you saw it on a transcript. And Donald Trump would say things like, we already did the deals. I've already done 200 deals. The deals are done with countries. And there's not even 200 countries. What do you mean you've done 200 deals? And again, the corporate news won't point out what the deranged and delusional things that Donald Trump is actually saying. And I think it's important that we read it, we talk about it, and we recognize that it's really just a bunch of word salad and mush and BS and just crap spewing out of his mouth. He has no understanding of geopolitical situations. He has no understanding of domestic policy, foreign policy, and the worst quality of all is that because of his malignant narcissism, he purports to know everything, which he knows nothing. And so he says things like, I don't, and these are the transcripts that are missing as well. He'll say things like, I don't like stealth. I don't like the shapes. I don't think it's good. They figure out the shapes and stealth is bad. Or the way he talks about the amount of engines he thinks should go on fighter jets. I think there should be this amount of engines versus that amount of engines. Or, wouldn't you want to read I'm saying you want to read it, but for posterity, so we know what an awful and despicable, vile piece of trash this is, we can go back and read the transcript of what he said in the Oval Office with Canada. What did he say in the office with South Africa, South African president, the Prime Minister of Canada, and others, and have these readouts so that we know that this guy is not making sense at all. And, but they continue to delete it, which again, I believe is a violation of the Presidential Records Act. That's my opinion. You may have different opinions and you're free to have different opinions than me, but wanted to keep you posted on that development and that situation. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 5 million subscribers. And thank
First Doom. Triple takedown. Double takedown. Triple takedown.
Thanks.
First doom. Double takedown. Double takedown. Double takedown.
Be patient.
First doom. Double takedown. Triple takedown.
Help me!
Double takedown. Triple takedown.
Ugh. Ugh.